Harry Cole and Pippa Crerar. Among the stories we'll be discussing this on the front of the Telegraph about the fire at the Prime Minister's North London home. The headline, as you can see, terror probe into arson at PM's home. In fact, 3 fires, we now understand. Back with that in just a moment.
A secret hospital hidden in the Myanmar jungle, treating the victims of this bloody war. This is Myanmar today. Its military rulers don't want the world to see, but we have.
I fight for my own future. I fight for my generation's future.
This is an actual crime.
They don't care for that.
Myanmar army is only a couple of kilometers away. So this is a major humanitarian disaster.
Well, this is Sky News. In just a moment, the press preview, a first look at what is on the front pages. First, though, reminder of our top stories this evening. Counter-terrorism officers are investigating whether 2 fires earlier this month may be connected to a blaze at a home owned by the Prime Minister in North London. Hamas has released the Israeli-American hostage Idan Alexander from captivity in Gaza. The militant group says it is ready to be involved in negotiations to reach a ceasefire with Israel. And President Trump has set off for his tour of the Middle East, as he suggested he could be in Turkey later this week for the talks between Presidents Putin and Zelensky, if Putin attends, of course, over the war in Ukraine. Hello there, watching the press preview. A first look at what is on the front pages. Time to see what's making the headlines then, with the political editors of The Sun and The Guardian, Harry Cole and Pippa Crerar. Welcome and lovely to see both of you. So let's take a look, shall we, at the front pages, starting with The Telegraph and the fire at Prime Minister Keir Starmer's home in North London, which is being investigated by anti-terror police, makes the lead for The Telegraph. It is also the main item in tomorrow's Daily Star. Likewise, the Daily Mirror makes it the lead story too. Terror cops probe blaze at PM home. And the Times as well, down the bottom there, Starmer house fire mystery, their headline for tomorrow's paper. Meantime, the truce between the US and China over punitive tit-for-tat trade tariffs is the top story for the Financial Times. The government ban on recruiting foreign migrants as care workers leads the eye with the care sector, warning that homes will be forced to close as a result. Daily Mail, meanwhile, says Labour's immigration crackdown has brought the PM nothing but ridicule and that he's taking us for fools. And The Express warns him that we've heard it all before and now is the time to deliver. Some of the PM's language in today's announcement is the focus for The Guardian, which says he's being accused of echoing the rhetoric of the far right. 50 years for Putin's minions. The Metro leads with the 6 members of a Russian spy ring run from a guest house in Great Yarmouth who have been jailed for running espionage operations across Europe. And the opening of the trial of the American rapper P. Diddy on sex trafficking charges makes the front page of The Sun. So let's bring in Harry Cole and Pippa Crerar. Lots of breaking news then in terms of the terror cops probing the blaze at the Prime Minister's home. Turning out it's more than one blaze, isn't it, who wants to kick off?
Well, if you don't mind...
Yes, well, it's your byline, I guess.
Well, no, but we broke the story about 3:45 this afternoon based on one fire. A big cordon had gone up in North London on the road that the Prime Minister used to live at before he became Prime Minister, before he moved into Downing Street. The house is now rented out. He wasn't there. That probably explains why there wasn't a massive amount of police protection on this house. But an astonishing incident in the very early hours this morning, about 1 a.m, neighbours report that they were woken up by a loud bang, shattering of glass, big commotion outside. Fire brigade, 2 fire engines, a dozen firefighters on the scene. Extraordinary pictures breaking now tonight in a few of the papers of the damage done, as you can see there, to the front door. Now, that is quite significant damage. We understand that is a security-protected door that was put in when Keir Starmer lived there as Leader of the Opposition. And had that door not been there, this incident could have been far, far worse because the fire would have spread. Now, anti-terror cops will be coming tonight and to look at this. Obviously, someone of his profile, a property linked to him, would mean that the most serious level of policing looks at it. But plot twist tonight, neighbours started to tell our reporters who are knocking up and down the doors of that street that other incidents happened in the local vicinity not too far away. A car fire last Thursday. On Sunday, a similar incident involving a property in the local area that we now understand is linked in some way to Keir Starmer. So there is a serious story here now that started out as quite a strange curiosity, but now, as each hour goes on, looking more and more like something slightly sinister and very coordinated, that, a good thing that Scotland Yard are all over it.
Yeah, a jigsaw by your reporters as well, by the sound of it. Leading the Daily Telegraph as well with that picture, as you suggested, of the entrance hallway. Suspected firebomb is how the Telegraph are describing it. Concern about who then might be behind this, I suppose, Pippa.
Yes, and Scotland Yard are saying tonight that they're keeping an open mind whether the 3 blazes are linked and, of course, are investigating through counter-terror police who could be behind them. The Telegraph is speculating a bit here. I mean, it says that the fire outside the house occurred on the day that a group of 6 Bulgarians that you just mentioned in your headlines there, who'd been living in the UK, received lengthy jail sentences for spying as being part of a spy ring on behalf of Russia, and list a variety of recent attacks, including an arson attack that have taken place in the UK. I think there was a warehouse, DHL warehouse in Birmingham, I think it was, last year that counter-terror police then investigated, thinking it was potentially linked to Ukraine. as in it was caused by the Russians, but potentially there was a link to Ukraine there as well. And of course, Keir Starmer's home, when he was still living there before he entered Downing Street, was a frequent target for protests.
Yeah.
Non-violent ones, it should be stressed, but nevertheless, groups of, for example, pro-Palestinian demonstrators outside his house, daubing the pavement with red paint, chanting slogans to the extent that he decided during the general election campaign, when one of his children was going through his GCSE exams, to move out of the property because of the disruption. So I think if you're a senior politician and you're in the public eye, you expect probably a degree of protest, unfortunately, even in your personal, at your home. But something like this is a whole other level. It's much more extreme than we've heard recently for other MPs, although, of course, we should say that the reason that MPs get these protected doors is because not just that they, we've seen the murders of 2 MPs in recent years, not at home, but we have had countless examples of MPs being on the receiving end of harassing, violent, aggressive behaviour, which often ends up in the courts.
Yeah, no proven links, obviously, to any of the previous protests.
Not at all, but I mean, it took me about 35 seconds of Googling on Twitter, on X, or whatever we call it these days, online, to find this address.
Yeah.
People have been publishing it, saying protest here next Saturday. Let's do this. People were leaving, sort of shoes meant to represent dead children and the like. Climate protests have been turned up there. The problem is also with this door is incredibly easy to spot because Keir Starmer and his wife spent most of lockdown clapping outside of it on camera as leader of the opposition, as lots of politicians did outside their homes. But as the leader of the opposition, obviously, he was very, very, very identifiable property. That obviously he is not living there. There was some talk during the transition of when it was looking like he was going to win the election that actually he might try to stay and live at this house and commute to Downing Street, as other politicians have tried over the years, and it just never works because the level of security you need, and especially a British Prime Minister makes the sort of US President look overprotected in the level of security, but the level of security you do need in a North London suburban leafy house. Very, very tricky to do. So very lucky they weren't there. Feel very sorry for the people that are his tenants.
Yeah, indeed so, those living there. The Times also leading on this, Starmer House fires mystery as well, suggesting that counter-terror detectives investigate suspected arson, 3 London blazes in 4 days. Their main story, though, is migration plan to curb 100,000 arrivals a year. It's the lead story for The Guardian as well. PM accused of echoing the far-right rhetoric in his immigration speech. Some of it, especially on the social care sector, for example, will have extraordinary impact, won't it?
Yeah, well, there's different elements to this, and I think one of the most interesting ones today was not just the care sector, but also business groups talking about how they rely on migration for growth. And Keir Starmer and Downing Street's response has been, well, look, over the last decade, growth has pretty much stagnated.
3 decades, yeah.
Yet we've seen net migration go up to almost 1 million under the last government. Of course, we also had the pandemic and Brexit, which impacted growth themselves as well. But nevertheless, their argument, it was a really striking moment actually in the press conference this morning where Keir Starmer said that the link that previously existed, or that has been argued exists between migration and growth doesn't necessarily exist. That link is broken, he suggested. And I think, I was speaking to people in Downing Street today, and there seems to be some suggestion that they might want to go to the Office for Budget Responsibility, which currently look at just a 5-year cycle when it comes to the economic benefits of migration, and also take the longer picture, ageing population, cost to the state, and that sort of thing. So there's lots of discussions inside government about the economic benefits or otherwise of migration. But the care sector, I think, is really important because, of course, in recent years, particularly post-pandemic, the care sector has really struggled to find people to recruit. And the last government changed the rules to allow more people in, but they didn't necessarily do it.
So there's almost post-COVID panic, actually, for the NHS and the care sector. A lot of blame's been put on Boris Johnson's door, isn't it?
Yvette Cooper, the Home Secretary, has come out and said, actually, this route has been completely abused.
Yeah.
And the fact there are more than 10,000 people who came here on a job of a promise in the care sector. These jobs didn't exist. They haven't found it. You've got dodgy agents and recruiters and people trying to bring people over for profit who have promised them jobs in the care sector that don't exist. So in the meantime, let's pause this route and let's get these 10,000 people, for starters, jobs in the care sector. Really fascinating day this morning. A vet keeper came out really hard on Trevor Phillips on Sky and on Laura Kuenssberg on the BBC, and basically took a massive swing at Rachel Reeves and a massive swing at the Treasury in saying, actually, you know what, enough is enough. Your idea, your mantra that higher migration equals higher growth has been proved comprehensively wrong. And Keir Starmer was put on the spot this morning. He had to side with one of them, and he's come down on the Home Secretary's side, which I think is fascinating. He's been hinting at this for a little while, but he's allowed his Chancellor to use this mantra all the way through her two big fiscal events so far. Pippa's going to disagree with me. All the way through her 2 fiscal events so far, as Chancellor, she has relied on OBR forecasts, which means if you pull a lever that says more migration, you're going to get economic growth. A big conversation needs to be had now, which is if you're going to limit migration numbers, you've got to accept you're going to get lower growth in the eyes of these mystical forecasters who pretty much get it wrong every time.
Growth was impacted by the Ukraine war, by inflation,
but
by the cost of living crisis, the cost of energy.
Growth's been flatlining for 15 years, though. It's been bumping around 2%.
Well, austerity. I mean, there's reasons why growth has been knocked. Let's be honest about it.
And also, as I just said, they are
not
actually...
in America, not in Germany, not in Japan.
The government does actually want the OBR to look again at its assessment of those 5 years. But I think you're overstating the overstating suggestion that Rachel Reeves...
It's not personalities, it's ideologies.
Well, no, exactly.
Between the Treasury and the Home Office.
No, but it's if you talked about the individuals. I remember conversations with Rachel Reeves in opposition 3 or 4 years ago, where she sat down, and in fact, I remember one particular coffee when we were in a room and we were with a Brexiteer, and the one thing that they really agreed on was this sort of this economic nationalism. It was the whole sort of her whole philosophy. Talk about ideologies. She lent into this Bidenomics. The one bit of it that she shared with Joe Biden on this was what she described as securonomics, which was all about building up the British workforce.
Sentence, I'll be amazed.
Building up the British workforce, skilled workers, making sure that businesses invest in their workforces rather than relying on cheap foreign labour. And she's been arguing that case for years.
We've got a lot to pack into the next part of
the fact that Whitehall is wired that each department represents the
You said Rachel Reeves and the vet keeper.
Well, she's the Chancellor and she's the Home Secretary, as they stand. Is an argument as old as the hills between Whitehall departments. Less migration for the Home Office, more migration for the Treasury.
We've got massive geopolitics to get to.
Why would you get to that when you get into like the nitty-gritty of it?
I know, there's more. We've got more time later. Anyway, lots more still to come in the next part of our programme. Is the US-China trade tariffs war finally coming to an end? That and plenty more after the break.
This is how you travel when the mafia wants to kill you.
He's almost given up his own freedom, but that's the price he's willing to pay.
Here, they don't just arrest Ndrangheta mafia members, they also live among them.
Time after time, I've seen the devastating impact of extreme weather and climate change.
We don't have much snow at the moment.
They've had a warm spring and exceptionally hot summer, and that means they're expecting to lose more than 3 times the amount of ice than they usually do.
Flames are still forcing people from their homes and leaving many questioning their futures.
Here was my life. We have nothing. I can't say anything, it's so sad.
This disaster is testing the resolve of everyone on this island.
The only way out now is by boat.
Everything you see is devastated, and the misery being felt by people living here is repeated in towns and villages across Central Europe. Sky News, get the full story first.
Turkey is burying its dead. The loss is profound.
Whole families died in this collapse, generations wiped out.
The violence has penetrated the heart of the city rather than being contained to the estates around the edge, and that speaks to the level of anger being felt here. In Sweden, police have seized a lethal stash. This is just a small sample of the deadly arsenal taken off the streets.
This is an example of an advert, really. Anyone of any age could say, I'll do that for £1 million, and then have to go and shoot someone.
Yes.
I'm Siobhan Robbins, Sky's Europe correspondent based here in Berlin.
gives you the very best of Sky News wherever you are. Breaking news, videos and analysis.
Evidence of the crisis.
Podcasts, watching us live.
Live here from Washington.
Wherever you get your podcast.
All in one place. And all at just the touch of a screen. The Sky News app. Get the full story first.
Jubilation in the streets, while some emotional.
This is a political victory for Prime Minister Modi and his Hindu Nationalist Party. I'm Neville Lazarus and I'm Sky's reporter based in Delhi. Companies like these are helping India in its trajectory to be a serious player in space exploration. Sky News, get the full story first.
We've got your Sunday mornings covered. From the front page and the sounds of the streets to the voices of the people who make the major calls and big picture politics beyond Westminster. We'll put you at the heart of our story. I'm ready. Are you? Join me, Trevor Phillips, Sunday mornings on Sky News.
Well, welcome back. You are watching the press preview. With me once again, the political editors of The Sun and The Guardian, Harry Cole and Pippa Crerar. Welcome back to both of you. So Donald Trump in the air, heading towards Saudi Arabia. The focus, though, was tariffs, wasn't it, earlier today? Yep. Slash and burn of the trade war, it seems. Temporary relief, possibly, lingering uncertainty. And what was the point of all of that?
Yeah, well, I mean, I think they would suggest it's a negotiating tactic and that ultimately...
Don't steal my lines.
And that, they would suggest, Harry would suggest, and that ultimately it was, you know, chaos for a purpose. I mean, that's one way of looking at it, I suppose. The other way of looking at it is that he has thrown the global economic order into complete disarray. And actually, as a result of the China tariffs in particular, stoked real anger among American consumers. This realisation that the two economies are incredibly interlinked.
The Walmart warnings of empty shelves finally got to him,
and Chinese workers in factories as well who are producing those goods. So the fact that they've now managed, after this meeting in Switzerland, to agree. I think about after a month so far, hasn't it been, of tariffs?
Yeah. Not even that, is it? It's less than a month.
4 weeks or so. They've now managed to reduce the additional levies, as he described them, from 145% down to 30%, and China's retaliatory tariff, which was 125%, will fall to on American goods will fall to 10%. So you know, all the well, but this is like, I mean, this isn't permanent, is it? Let's see what happens next. It all feels.
I think there's a really interesting,
pretty chaotic.
There's a really interesting figure emerging in Scott Bessent, the Treasury Secretary, who is the most. I'm not one for woke politics and defining stuff.
Surely not.
He's the most senior. He's the most senior LGBT person ever appointed in US history. He's the first. He's the most senior sort of gay man in senior office. He is cool as a cucumber. And he's been the one leading these negotiations in Geneva with his. He's a former Wall Street man. He knows how these things work. And he says this, isn't it? They're in not a bad place. They're not in a bad place. They got to a good place from what was clearly a terrible place. There was that crazy day when even, I think it was the 25% tariffs on cars, global tariffs on cars, when even people in the White House weren't aware that they were about to announce that. So you think number 10 and the Germans and all the big car makers around the world were caught off guard. People in the next room from the Oval Office were caught on guard. And I think Scott Bessent deserves a lot of praise for sort of keeping this sort of show on the road, getting it back to a slightly more reasonable place.
For now.
But 30, yeah, but,
well, Trump's already come
but the guy's got an incredibly short attention span, that it was all going wrong in Ukraine, so he started the trade war. Now it's sort of fixed the trade war, now he's turning his eye back to Ukraine, and it looks like he might turn up in Turkey.
Well, indeed, you have to say that lingering economic uncertainty and combined with a mercurial president do not exactly make... Yeah.
Except everyone's buying at the dip and making lots of money. Tesla shares are back up.
Everyone, Harry. Billionaires are making lots of money.
Yeah, and it trickles down, you know. We can talk about that.
Trickle down economics, let's go on to that.
He's got his hands in a lot of things, claiming credit for a lot of things as well. Very quickly, Daily Telegraph. Trump toys with this late entrance to Ukraine-Russia peace talks. And I want to show as well, to make sure we get to it, the release of this American-Israeli or Israeli-American hostage after direct talks between the US and Hamas. So only got 30 seconds left.
There's so what you like about him. The guy's on a diplomatic, mission.
Undiplomatic mission.
He's everywhere. He's doing China, he's doing Europe, he's doing Ukraine, he's doing
India,
Middle
Pakistan,
East.
he says.
He's doing India, Pakistan. Definitely, whoever you believe, they did play some role in that. That was looking pretty dicey. You can't. The guy's what, 78? Is he? You can't fault his energy.
We need a longer programme, which is luckily coming up next. Pippa, Harry, thank you both very much indeed. Thank you. So our press preview continues in Sky News at 11. Oh, it's all gone a bit black, hasn't it? There it goes, back again. Counter-terror officers investigating whether 2 fires earlier this month may be connected to a blaze at a home owned by the Prime Minister. More to come.
A show of military might and menace. Why should the West trust you?
Frankly, I don't care whether the West trusts us or not.
Sky News. Get the full story first.
Have a quick word for Sky News. Is the West right? Are you fueling Russia's war machine? American journalist Evan Gershkovich is on trial here, but was first on display.
I'm Ivor Bennett, Sky's Moscow correspondent.
We arrive. A secret hospital hidden in the Myanmar jungle, treating the victims of this bloody war. This is Myanmar today. Its military rulers don't want the world to see, but we have.
I fight for my own future. I fight for my generation's future.
This is an actual crime. They don't care for that. Myanmar army is only a couple of kilometres away. So this is a major humanitarian disaster.